SWITCHKOTTIN Radio is a platform created to serve and ignite the spark of creative minds, and represents the unlimited possibilities, hosting individuals who are key in impacting the culture, leading the culture by the use of inclusive innovation and connecting all creative and cultural spectrums. Okay, hi everybody. Yeah. So today we have Zach Styles, aka Thattypeguy, and we also have Quavious and Sabelo Zulu. He'll be jumping in now and then, because if I don't introduce you, you'll want to say something, and then people will be like, "Who is this random guy speaking?" So we have Sabelo, and then we also have myself, Shuratta Quavious. So today we're speaking to Zach. So we do have a blog just profiling you on the SWITCHKOTTIN website, but then from our last interview, we thought that it would make sense that we have a podcast with you, because it was so informative and actually learning about your journey and learning that you are a person who reflects so much, and we need that in our time. So can you just do a brief little introduction about yourself? Who are you and how did you come to be that type guy?
Cool. Well, first of all, I just obviously want to say it's really cool to be here and like to just give it to you guys. This is my first podcast ever, so I'm probably more excited for this than you guys are. So yeah, I am a working graphic designer currently. I also have my own freelance brand called Thattypeguy, where I focus on hand lettering and generally just handcrafted illustration focused around typography and lettering. So that's where the type comes in of that guy. Kind of where that name came from was during my graphic design studies, where I got my degree here in Durban. I had a big focus and like quite an interest on typography even before I got into the lettering itself, to the point where people would just call me, it's Zach's that type guy. If you want to go, if you need anything about type, or you want to know, hey, what font to use, that kind of thing. As much as I still feel like there are 14 million fonts and I know 2 of them, I still tend to be the guy. I still tend to be the guy people go to or went to in my class when anything was type related. Yeah. So I just became that type guy. And I remember we were sitting down, my family and I, around a Christmas table, after a few too many shots of caramel vodka, to try and decide, okay, what should I call myself? And it went from one thing to the other. It was like Styles Type Design, and I thought that was so cool until my mom just raised her hand impolitely and said that the acronym for that is STD. Do you know?
Oh my God! You don't want to be associated.
No. So immediately that was out the window. I think I even tried to fight for it, going, no, but that's not what it. And it just no, that there was too much laughter around the table for me to actually consider it anymore. And then I was like, wait a minute, everyone keeps calling me that type guy, so I'm just going to go with that. And since I did, I have not felt out of place at all. It was almost like it was a little like net that I just fell into, and I'm more comfy than I've ever been.
Yeah, way better than STD.
Yeah, way better than an STD. But yeah, so that kind of came through my studies. But yeah, so I'm originally from Pietermaritzburg, came down here to Durban to study graphic design. I was interested in photography for a while, being big on capturing moments, and like I knew I was going to be in some kind of creative field.
Yeah, and is that from family? Because I do recall that you do have within your family, you come from a you have a couple of creators, people that are in theater, people that are in sound. So did that also influence where you are right now? Hugely.
I mean, my mom is she's currently a drama and technology teacher at the school my sister goes to. But before that, she was a theater manager and costume designer. And that's where she met my stepdad, who was a stage designer, lighting and audio technician at the same theater. And my dad, he was in promotions for a big corporate. Before that, he was, funnily enough, in the circus. He was a clown. So, that kind of clowning around and just having a good time has kind of always been in me. Or rather, I could reflect quite a lot and understand a lot of it from him.
Yeah.
But even in the corporate lifestyle, he was jumping around and making noise, playing music. He's been a DJ all his life, still tries to here and then. So the creative side of things, it was in every area of my family. It was inevitable. And I think what was important about that wasn't so much that they led me to it, but rather that when I started to pursue it, they supported my direction. So they weren't like, no, you need to get a proper job in inverted commas. You need to be a doctor, or you need to be an accountant or a lawyer or something
Follow
that can make real money, you know. It's like, no, do what you want, man. Like if it makes you happy, then do it. And my mom, I still remember to this day, she reflected something with me. Actually, I think it was a few months after it happened, and I now, I refer to it, or rather I remember it, and I enjoy remembering it, was that she told me one day that I came home from my first term at graphic design, my degree, my first year. I came home from my first term, and I was so excited. I mean, I knew nothing at that point. You know, you think you know everything, but you know nothing. And I thought I knew everything, and I was having a good time. I was like, oh, check this out. This is so cool. And even though it was, everything I was doing at that time was terrible, the fact that she could see the, the joy and the excitement. And you wanting
to demonstrate and involve her also.
Exactly that. Yeah. That I wanted to show it and share it and check this out. She said that for her was the most important thing. And I now use that to go, actually, I did enjoy that. And I had a really, really good time there. And I enjoyed learning, and especially in the design kind of world there, because design is a funny thing. You don't realize how ingrained it is in everything until you actually look for it, and then suddenly you can't unsee it. Yes. So as soon as I got involved in that, I was just, this is it for me. And my parents just supported me the entire time, and so I'm always grateful for that. Yeah,
it's amazing. Yeah. Earlier on, you said you wanted to be a photographer. What made you choose design over photography at the first?
So I originally got into photography because actually sometimes I remember one thing and then I remember another. So where it started with photography was is a little bit hazy for me, but I remembered that it was a creative outlet for me to just enjoy taking photos. Okay, when I'm here, let me, I had an eye for it, rather. So when I did take photos here and there, I was always told, hey, that's really cool, you should do more of this. And so I did. And then I started getting into photography in my high school, doing the sports shoots and all the first team games. And at that time, there wasn't so much of a camera club or a photography club like there are a lot now. And so in my final matric year, I did a lot of that, and I thought, this is pretty cool. I wonder if there's a career in this. And I went and looked around. I had some family who had gotten diplomas and certificates and stuff in photography because I couldn't find anywhere to get a degree. There's the whole thing about, oh no, you must get a degree because it's far more valuable than a diploma. And it's that's all bullshit. I mean, it's so contextual, and it's so dependent on so many things that you don't actually control. So I was like, no, I'm gonna find what I can, and I'm gonna check it out. And I looked around, found a place in Tshwane University of Technology, so in Pretoria, that did I think it was a diploma in photography, and I was like, cool, I've got a friend of mine who's going up to study at Tux, so we can live, you can check it out, we can do that kind of cool budgeting vibe, and go check it out. I did, and I think it was 3 weeks or two. It was a very, very short time. I mean, we were there for maybe 2 weeks before the thing actually started. The whole registration and this, that, and the next. So I got to explore the city a little bit. And when I went to the campus, I just felt out of place. There were just aspects of it. I was I wasn't comfortable. I don't know if it was the area. It was so new. I mean, I knew KZN and I knew my family. And at that point, it's oh my gosh, I'm so far from family. What the hell? So I think that threw me off a little bit. my parents were also kind of like, oh my gosh, you're quite far away. It's not like you're down in Durban or something where it's a quick trip back. It's a serious day's drive, you know. So that was it was quite scary, and it was difficult to see myself there. Like, I was there, and I had one person that I knew there, but I knew no one else. Culturally, I was in a new space. Friends, I was in a new space. And also, I realized that the kind of photography I liked doing and wanted to do wasn't what I was going to be taught. And I was like, you know what? Is there time? Do I still have time to get my money back for this? Because my parents, I am very grateful and very lucky, because I know a lot of people don't have the opportunity. But my parents, when I was very young, they started their own like little fund to get to, so that I didn't have to go into debt when I went into varsity. And I now realize how important that was, because so many people are in debt just for an education. I mean, it's horrendous. And so I valued that, and I said, no. I'm not going to waste my parents' money on this. Can I get it back? Is there enough time? Luckily, because it was in the first week, they were like, yeah, no, it's okay. Like,
but then also, people get stuck in qualifications because they aren't aware that you can actually get a refund. And they feel that they have to, stay and complete that diploma, even though they hate it and they are miserable. So also for you, at which point did you realize that this is not for you?
It was just like an intuitive feeling. It was like, oh no, I don't like this. I can't see myself here. I don't like the space. I don't like, there was a lot of like traffic and this, that, and the next. And it's just like, there were a few areas I just didn't feel comfortable. I couldn't see myself being there on my own, not knowing anyone, and now having to learn and do all that kind of stuff. It just didn't like gel well in my head. And so I decided, no, okay. And my parents were always like, look, you need help, you come home. Anytime. You need help, give us a call. You need this, we'll drive up. My dad at the time was making regular trips to Pretoria and Joburg. And so he said, look, you need it, I'll come up, whatever, make a plan. And so I lent on my parents a bit, and it was, like that slightly embarrassing thing, like, I've failed here. There's that pride that kind of takes a hit when you feel a bit broken and lost and confused, and you've got to fall into that safety net. Like, oh no, I don't need a safety net. No, it's good to have a safety net. And there's nothing wrong with using it if it's going to propel you to a better space, So I just kind of took that up, and my parents have always been supportive of that. And so they gave me that opportunity. And a week later I was back. I pulled out, I chatted to the dean, and I was like, look, this is how I'm feeling. This is why I really want to go home. And, he was like, look, I get it. I completely understand. I know where you've been. I've been there. That's fine. And I think also that was an important moment, because I think a lot of educational institutions will fight for you to stay for their numbers and for their money. This guy was like, no, if you're not enjoying it, leave. Don't waste your time. And because I brought up the financial thing, he was also like, nope, that's cool, understandable. Let's make it happen. And we did. Wow. And I think that's cool, because, like you said, not many people know that they can get out of something. I mean, like, to make a small example that's somewhat external from that, a lot of people think they can never get out of a lease for an apartment. True. Last year, I left a 1-year lease 6 months in. Barely any financial repercussions, maybe a small one for cancelling the thing, but it's possible to do. You can do these things. You just have to have that conviction and go, look, this is not for me. I need to make a change, and I'm going to do it. And you can. It's not the easiest thing to do, but nothing worth it is really easy if you break it down.
And why do you think it's so hard for other people to break that?
I think a lot of it comes down to there's a strength aspect which is difficult to talk about, because when you do, it's almost like it's binary. You're either strong or you're weak. And that's a hard thing to tell someone. It's a hard thing to even talk about yourself in that regard. Like, okay, I feel weak in this position. No, I'm going to tough it out. No, you don't have to. It's okay to be like that. And I think a lot of people they don't think they're strong enough to make a decision and make a change. They think the stronger thing is to stick it out. I'm going to tough it out. I'm going to make a plan. But that's not true. And so they don't take the initiative to do it, or they don't take the seriousness of it. Your environment shapes much more about you than you think it does. And so if your environment's not working for you, you need to change that. And I think that people don't realize that fact, and then they don't think they're strong enough to do it, or they think that strength lies in the wrong aspect of the situation, and they just also don't know that they can. You think, oh no, I actually can't get out of lease. At the time, I didn't think I could. I was like, no, I'm in 1 year, I can't. I didn't even look further than that. And a friend of mine was like, no, bro, don't be an idiot. These things are set up this way and that way, and you can do it. You've just got to present it well, not be a dick about it, and you'll be fine. And I did exactly that. I felt terrible initially, but then I was like, afterwards, I'm really glad I did that. So it's the same thing with the fast is that I felt scared at the time, lost, but I am so grateful that I did it. Best decision I made.
And so you spent a year trying to figure out what to do next, what to venture into. So how do you bump into graphic design? And when you discovered graphic design, how did you know that this is it?
So when I came back, I took the year to rather like regroup. And I mean, it was too late to now start a new enrollment. That would have been premature and naive to do so because I didn't know anything else. This was all I had focused about.
That's also important because this whole thinking you're a failure thing, I could imagine that would have gone another way if it had it been someone else, because you are also big on reflecting and, regrouping and taking a moment to just reflect and spend time with yourself. Some people, they would have seen it as, oh God, I failed. Coming back to KZN, they would have tried to find something to validate them and to sort of make or to please their parents and to please their friends so that it sort of seems as though they have it all together. So it takes a lot of self-awareness for a person to say, okay, let me just slow down, take a break, and try and figure out my next step.
Yeah, no, I agree completely. I mean, honestly, and this is a kind of a controversial statement, but I think that can come down to a failure in parenting.
Yes.
The failure of a parent to be able to support a child in a time of weakness. And weakness is a strong word because, like I said earlier, it's hard for it to not be binary. You're either strong or you're weak.
Yeah.
And you get parents that go, no, tough it out, all this.
Just stay for a year.
Yeah, stick it out. We paid for this, all that kind of rubbish. I mean, yes, there is a financial aspect that's important to consider and all that. But I think supporting parents are keystone, are really, really important, to that kind of process, like, look, I came back and my mom was a huge supporter of me at that point. She's like, look, take the time you need. My parents have been divorced since I was 3, so we've always lived apart, but they had, I would argue, the best relationship a divorced, I guess, parent couple can have. I had regular this and regular that. I essentially had 2 homes to go to, dad at one and mom and stepdad the other. So it was a very supportive situation. And again, when I see families that don't have that, I'm like, I am so lucky.
Yeah.
And I thank my parents for that often, which is good. And so I had support from both sides to go, look, take the time you need. Don't be an idiot. Actually use the time.
Yeah. But
take the time. Just regroup. You can stay at home. You can relax. You can look into this. You can look into that. And in doing that, I kind of went, well, I'm definitely not going to go from here into accounting or being a lawyer, or physics or any of the STEM fields. And I say that, funny enough, because at the time, that was all I knew that there was. There was no education around, okay, you can also do this and you can also do this and all these other 4,000 things.
The biggest trap of our society. And it's crazy because we've come such a long way, but then people still only know those fields.
Yeah.
They
feel stuck. So now everyone feels lost or stuck, I don't feel at place. That's because you haven't been told about all the places that there are.
Yeah.
You've only been told 4 of them, I don't feel comfortable in these 4. More than likely not, because there are more things that you can do. I didn't even know design was a thing. Like I knew art was a thing, like fine art, but that's a multifaceted industry. It's a huge industry. I didn't even know that it was there. I mean, like graphic design, for example, within the term graphic design, there's illustration, there's copyright,
there's motion design,
art direction, motion design, animation. There's so much cinematography, videography, visual effects. There's so much. I mean, even like, oh well, I feel good, but I'm not really sure where in this. Cool, explore it, figure it out. Because even within those, there's different areas. It's a bottomless pit of everything.
Discovery.
Of discovery. I mean, there's so much. So my parents gave me that opportunity, and I was like, cool. Let me have a look around. I'm still going to be in a creative field. I just feel like I don't know where. And so I looked into it a bit more, and I was like, well, what about graphic design? Like design, like, okay, cool. I can still apply my skills of photography, of composition and this. Okay. Because at the time, that's even just what I thought it was, oh, well, you're going to apply graphics and things like that. I mean, it's so, draw pictures and all those kinds of things, all that, rubbish. So I was like, cool, let me check it out. And then, while doing research and whatnot, we came across the UCT's Get Smarter program, which is like a small, like online thing. What was nice about it was 10 weeks, 10 modules, just gave me a taste of it. A little bit of book cover design, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And when I did that, I was like, oh, this is so much fun. This is awesome. And I completed the briefs. I had a good time. I did really well. Now I look back at that work and I'm like, oh, that was terrible. Oh no, I would not pass this now. But then I remember, like, that was a different stage. That was a different time for a different level of skill. But it served its purpose and it gave me that taste. And I was like, this is it. This is, where can I do this? Where can I do this full time? Where can I do I need to get a degree or a diploma? What's the story? Lots of diplomas around. High certificates, that kind of thing. I just had a short course certificate, so obviously I need something more than that now. And then there's all the bravado of, you gotta have this to get into corporate, and you gotta have this, and you gotta have that. So my mom, while doing some research, my mom played a big role in this. She found a design college that had a campus down in Durban. That had an open day the following week, and we were like, okay, well, let's check out their website, and we checked it out. I was like, this is interesting. This doesn't look half bad. This looks fun. This looks cool. And so we were like, okay, cool. Let's do it. Let's go down to the open day. We don't need to make a booking. It's an open day. We're gonna go check it out. Talk to some people immediately. And like I say this to everyone that I talk to about it, because I've spoken to like parents and things like that. Because I got really involved there. I was like, immediately when I went, I was like, this is my place. These are my people. This is it. Because, like, you feel out of place when you, especially in the art side of things in high school. Because like, art's not a real subject and all that rubbish. So you kind of feel like, okay, this isn't my place. I obviously need to do something else. So I always kind of felt out of place in that. So now being at Inscape and being, because that's the name of the college, Inscape Education Group, being there, just being there for the open day, I was like, this is it. Talking to these people. And what was nice is that there were students there who showed their work, and there were lecturers, and there were people who worked there that weren't lecturers. So I got to speak to everyone. I got to speak to the students. How do you feel about it? Like my parents, I think, just kind of took a step back and were like, no, you go ask your questions. You have a good time, Zach. Don't even stress about it. We'll be here. Like, cool. I was like, cool, thanks guys. And I'm going in there. I'm running up and down. I'm chatting to people. Wow, that's so cool. How'd you do that? Oh, okay, no, this is how you do. That's so cool. Do you teach that? Yeah. So this and this year. And first year you do this, and second year you do this, third year this is what you do. Wow, that's so cool. And then chatting to lecturers and being like, cool, well, this is the structure. There's lots of days that you're not working here. These are the kind of time slots. And I got to understand how that would work. And I was like, that actually sounds very attractive. How it would be structured, and it's full time, and there's, this, that, and the next. And, I think another one of the things that sold me, and this sells everyone the first time they hear it, is that there were no exams. Yeah. Like standardized testing is not really a thing there, which I didn't realize was important until I went through it. That standardized testing has its place, but it's overstepped its place currently, and that there needs to be more context-driven assessment, continuous based assessment where it's a project, you have a deadline, you do it, you learn what you need to for the project, you move on to the next, and that's so important because in the industry, especially in the design industry, that's how it is. You get a project, you get a brief, you have a timeline, you need to figure out how to achieve it, you got to manage your time, you got to do this, you got to do that. Oh, I don't know how to do this. Cool, let me learn how to do this one thing specifically for this. And then you have your deadline, you present, big on people skills, big on like presentation skills. I was terrible at the beginning, shaking my boots up at the top.
The pitching part is
the pitching part was terrible. And then they said that they're like, look, you're going to learn how to do this and you're going to learn how to do that. And part of that excited me. I was like, oh, I'm terrible at this. I would like to learn how to do this better. Yeah. And so that was another part. I was like, okay, this is a course I can do that I can actually learn a lot in. That's not just design, it's people. And I realized that was so important because you have to design for people. That's the end users that are using your stuff. You have to design for them. Even in the room that you're presenting to, you have to design for that. You have to design for the board that you're going on.
As a designer, you have to view it as the user all the time.
Yeah, you have to because that's where it's going to go. That's where it's going to have its biggest impact is with the user. And so there were those aspects of the course. I was like, this is really cool. I mean, the culture sold me immediately. Then the content of the course and the people and talking with them and just getting a better understanding of that. Then I was like, cool, where do I sign up? Let's do it. And I remember one of the guys, the guy that showed us around, I didn't know at the time. I thought he was a student. He was the marketing coordinator. We find out afterwards. We're like, oh gosh, I thought you were a student. And he's like, nah, I'm just cool like that. And he didn't say that, but I like to say that he said that. That's kind of how it felt. And he's now actually the director of the campus. So he worked his way up. And he runs that spot. And so I've seen how he's grown. I've seen how everyone else has grown because while I was there as well, the tuition was it wasn't cheap. Yeah. So in my first year, that was paid for. And in my second year, I was a financial aid student, where I was a student assistant. So I worked a lot behind the scenes and I got to know people a bit better. I got to know the lecturers a bit better. I wasn't involved with any of it. But I was involved more than a normal student was because I was helping out a lot. And in my helping out, that paid for some of my tuition. And in my third year, I had that as well as a bursary that I applied for, and they were very gracious enough to give to me, which I then again worked and earned while I was there. It wasn't very cheap, but it was a private college, and now looking back with all the protesting and everything that was happening at public education institutions, I'm really glad that I did go there because while I was working and studying, my girlfriend at the time, she was home. She was home and because her varsity was shut down. And I'm like, that is terrible. How are you supposed to stressing for this exam and next? And I'm like, well, I don't have exams. How cool is that? But yeah, so yes, I'm trying to remember now where that topic came from. Like I've kind of gone on a bit of a tangent now.
I think Inkscape was like my first choice. I wanted to go there so bad.
Is it?
And I was like, if I don't get into Inkscape, my bad. If I don't get into Inkscape, I'm not going to study it. I'm just going to self-teach.
Well, that's a good way of learning, bro, is to self-teach. There's so much that you learn just by having, by trying to teach yourself. Because you understand, one, how you learn. Yeah. And then you teach yourself. It can often be the best way to learn something is to teach yourself because it's contextual, it's to you, it's very personal, which is what a lot of what happened with my lettering and typecasting.
I was about to get into that.
Well, on that
note. So it's like, how did you get into So anyways, with that, I think it also speaks to lettering. So can you just touch base on that?
Yeah, so there was a point at the beginning of my second year that I had quite a rough time emotionally, and I then got into fitness and trying to focus on my body and all that, and I, as a visual kind of, I guess, meditation, a bit of a broad term, I got into looking at stuff on Instagram and Pinterest. And, you know, like, I thought that I could, while most people talk about their Twitter, I mean, like, talk about their problems on Twitter and go, oh, I feel like this today, it's so terrible. I was like, it's so pretentious. And like, you're begging for attention. And I didn't want to be one of those people.
Yeah.
Like, I understand it and I get it. I can relate to it. I can, empathize with it, but I just don't agree with it.
Yeah.
So I was like, no, I'm just going to keep it to myself and I'm going to see these things. And at the time it was big on like lettering, and hand lettering was big on quotes and like, you know, all that live, laugh, love stuff. But yeah, so like that kind of was where the lettering started. Was I started looking at that stuff and paying attention and crying my eyes out and going, oh, you're so right, how did you know how I feel?
Okay, so that design sort of lettering is understandable, but how did you get into the hand lettering stuff? Like, so
yeah, well that was the thing. Was I was watching all this stuff, and then I grouped that thought with, or rather the thoughts lined up where I like looking at this, and I don't like putting my emotions and stuff on Twitter or Instagram, like just whatever. Why don't I draw it? I'm feeling bad today, whatever. Let me artistically represent that. And I dabbled in a little bit, and I was like, oh, this is terrible. And like, no, I don't know how to do this. Until I came across an account, I think he was in Denmark, this guy. For the life of me, I can't remember his handle now. He was in the process, because it was like earlier in the year, it was around March, April-ish. No, it was June it was June that I found him. Or rather, June that I talked to him. But a month or two before that I originally found him and just followed his work. And he was in the middle of a 365-day lettering challenge, which is quite big in the design, the illustration community. Are just 365-day challenges where every single day you create, or you just create to be able to share something every single day, because it massively boosts it grows your skills just because you have to do it. There's a level of accountability that forces you to develop your skills. And even if you're not actionably going, how is this better than it was yesterday? Just by doing it, you look back 6 months, you're going, holy crap, that's so much better than it was. And it might still be bad, but it's much better than it was. And then 6 months later, it's the same thing. It's just, it's a exponential graph from there. So he was doing this, and I was like, that's really cool. And I eventually built the courage to talk to him about it, because at that time I was very insecure about reaching out to people and talking to people and being like, hey, how like, this is really cool, I really like what you're doing. And in Instagram, it can still be quite hard to do that, to remember that there are human beings on the other side of the accounts. There's human beings creating this art, and sometimes they create the most amazing stuff and you think they're so busy all the time, but I promise you they will love it if you just take a little bit of time to message someone and say, hey, huge fan of your work, just thought I'd let you know, I love seeing your stuff every day, or whatever the thing is. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Now you can even send voice notes. You don't even have to type.
Exactly. I mean, I messaged. I messaged this guy the other day as say, hey, cool. I mean, he did a post that said, hey, just remember, if you want to message people, talk to them. There's other people. They're real people. Talk to them. Just say.
And also, just disclaimer: you aren't reaching out to pitch
a
business.
No,
you're just
please
reaching
don't do that. Please,
because people think that
that.
famous person or person that I look up to. Let me just pitch my idea. Let me just pitch. So people go about it the wrong way.
Yeah, no, they do. And I'm not gonna lie, I've been there, I've done that, and then I was like, why didn't they respond to me? I'm like,
maybe because you were pitching.
And then I realized afterwards when people did the same to me, I was like, this is terrible, because it's you read that first thing, and, hey, love your work, I follow you every day, it's so cool. What do you think about it? I'm like, you just ruined it. You just ruined it. Damn it, man. Now I have to tell you, look, I don't do no. Now the whole experience is tainted. So I eventually built the courage to reach out to this guy, and I was like, hey, love what you're doing. I think it's so cool. How did you get into it? Like, it was just like, I just want to know how you did it. Like, I've been a huge fan of your work for a while, because what sparked that, like what sparked the courage was that I had followed him for a while, and I was sharing bits and pieces here and there, but nothing consistent, nothing all that great, or rather there was no like aim or goal behind it. It was just sharing for the sake of sharing. And he followed me back, and I was like, oh my God, he followed me back. This is so exciting. This is so cool. I was like, hey, really love your work. Thanks for following me back. I think I love what you do. Thank you for the support. How did you get into what you're doing now? You're doing a 365-day project. You're on day or whatever it was. I didn't say whatever it was. I mean, insert day number here. I asked him, hey, cool. How did you get into it? And he responded like very quickly. And I remember I was so ecstatic that he responded. It was like such a thing for me. And he was like, hey man, no, it's so cool. So like, it's just this thing. It's this thing that you do one every day for a year, and you build your thing. And he just gave me a bit of a synopsis of why they do that kind of thing. And I was like, that's actually not that bad. Like, I could probably do that for a month. Let me see if I can do it for a month. So I set myself. I was like, cool. Day 1 will be the 1st of July, and I will do it until the end of July, and then I'm going to see how it goes after that. I did do it until the end of July, but I didn't until the end of July the next year. So I went through the month, and I was like, I just want to keep going. This is so much fun. I was like, cool. I'm going to keep going. And a lot of it was really tough. Like I missed a day somewhere in September. And I felt terrible about it. I was like, oh man, it's not authentic. Oh, I didn't do the perfect 365, but the process was what was important. And I look back a little while, and I was like, cool, this is awesome. I love what's going on. So that's kind of where it went, and my skills developed, my interests changed throughout that year. I got better at this, I got better at that, and obviously my graphic design skills increased as I went from second year to third year. My personal development went up as I focused a bit more on myself, and I used that as a medium for me to share that, so that I didn't keep everything bottled up. So I used it as like a therapeutic thing while also doing this and while also doing that, and so that, and I kind of still look at that now. Like sometimes where I'm like, why am I feeling so down at the moment? I was like, well, I haven't been drawing a lot lately. Maybe I should do that. And then I get into it and I'm happy again. I'm like, yeah, this is why I started. Like I should do that. I should make time for this. Seriously, like if you find yourself in a happy space, and like I think it's I can't remember the guy's Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. It's a very hard name to pronounce correctly. He essentially wrote the book on flow, the flow state, which is where time just passes. You're in something, and it just passes, and you're like, wow, the time flies. You know, the whole time flies and you're having fun thing. That's where that comes from. And so that was a thing for me. And like, if that's a thing for you, do it. Seriously. Don't like think that, oh no, this is worthless. It's not. If it helps you even emotionally, mentally, it's worth it. 100% worth it.
How do you track your progress? Because I understand for you uploaded each piece on Instagram, and you sort of use that as a platform to track, but then also to share with people and show that you are getting better and that you are consistent in what you're doing.
Yeah. So Instagram is a big vanity hole where like a suck where you just put up work and you do it for the likes and you do it for the validation and all of that. And while yes, I will admit there are aspects of it that I fall into that trap. I think you'd be I don't believe you if you say you never do, because that's just what happens. Dopamine does that to you. But my focus was to use the platform to share my art and to record it, because as the platform is structured, it's like a timeline. So I could scroll back and see where I was and be like, oh, okay, cool. I'm going to redraw that and see if it looks better now. And it always does, because time has passed and my skills have developed. So I just used the platform to just share every day, even if it was a sketch or a final thing or a photograph of myself, which I still don't do very often, which I should. I just used it as a portfolio platform. It didn't originally start as a portfolio platform for me. It was just a place to share my art and to track my progress and to just have a visual thing. Because, I mean, you can draw and keep in your sketchbook and then it goes in the drawer and you don't get to see it. Yeah, I mean, like, cool, keep it for record, but share that shit, man. Like, let people see it, even if it's terrible. Like, it won't always be terrible. It's good to have a reference point. So that's kind of what that started as for me.
And how did you come across the communities? Because I know that you mentioned that there are a lot of communities, but then not so many in South Africa.
Yeah, so like at the time, I just shared for share's sake.
Yeah.
But then you start to notice the same people commenting on your stuff and the same people liking your stuff. And at the time, I still had like and comment notifications on. I don't anymore, because it's just like, it starts to get frustrated. Every time your phone goes like, oh, what's that? Oh, no, so, oh, yeah. But when I did, I started noticing the same names popping up. And I was like, okay, cool. Well, let me go check them out. And then I was like, oh, okay, well, they're also commenting on these. Hey, that's pretty cool. Let me follow this guy. And it kind of just webbed out like that. You started following the same people, you start commenting on the same stuff, and you start having the same interests. And then you see there were a lot of designers and illustrators, and especially letterers, because they focus on words, like the power of the word. Even like you can change the way a word is interpreted and how it's received just by how it looks. Like, it can be the same word, but how it's designed, how it's crafted, which is where lettering, hand lettering like really has its place, is how the letter marks and the words and how everything flows together is crafted, especially by hand. Like there's meaning behind that. And so a lot of letterers and designers, they would share content and share advice and stuff using lettering. And so it was just like a tool almost. And they started saying the same stuff, and you're like, okay, cool, I'm going to focus on these guys. And so you would almost just like slip into a community of people who are all paying attention to the same things. And then I heard about a podcaster here. I was like, okay, well, let me go check him out. Like, initially I got into the Sean West podcast and Perspective Collective and Creative Pep Talk. Man, he's cool.
Or Meet the Creatives. That's also a good one.
Yeah. So like, I got into those, and then you start to follow them, and you see their communities, and you see how they're talking. You're like, oh, well, you know this person. Oh, yeah, me too. And so it's almost like it's a hidden but not hidden community. It's a weird thing. But when you're in it, you can feel it. And
just serendipity after you find the first one.
Yeah, it just keeps going. And now that you know what it looks like, you can actually spot it, and you can go, oh, okay, cool. There's a community here. That's pretty cool. And so I think the communities that stick together are the small ones. Like the 4 or 5 people, the 20 people that you kind of always go to and you keep following and you keep commenting and that kind of thing, because they're sharing a message. They're not necessarily sharing just a style. And so I kind of now focus on people who are sharing a message other than the style, because as I practice my own style and go through that, it's always changing. So I'm trying not to get too stuck. So like I'm with currently with the creative. I'm going to butcher this name now. The Creative Boss Club with a friend of mine in Finland, Julia Braga. She was a supporter of my work from about like a couple 7-8 months in. And someone in her community, and I say her community because she developed a little group, like an external app, on like Slack or Discord, or I think it was actually just on Telegram at the time, just like WhatsApp. So, someone in her community contacted me saying, hey, cool, would you like to join our group? We're a group of international designers, and we love your work. Would you be keen? So it's like an invite-only thing. So I was like, yeah, that sounds so cool. Even just the concept of being in a cool little group, you know, and you're invited. You don't have to, oh, please, can I come? Yeah, knock, please, can I come in? And the guy was like, cool, if you're keen, I'll send your profile to our community head, and she'll be in contact and that kind of thing. And so I joined the group, and I think what's important about community is that you involve yourself.
True.
Like you can be a passive in and you're watching everything, but what does that actually serve? You know, what does that do? So I was heavily involved. I was like, oh, that's so cool. Well, I have this question here, and I've got this client here that's wanting this. What do you suggest? I mean, all this entire time, I'm building a client base and which stemmed, that wasn't my intention, but you put your art out there and people be like, hey, cool, can you do that for me? And I'm like, what, you want me to do that for you? And you'll pay me for it? Yeah, that sounds awesome. So that's where the client stuff came from. And then I was like, okay, how the hell do you put together a contract and an invoice, and how do you price and all that kind of stuff? And so I had this group of people who were already doing it.
Yeah.
So I just tapped into that, into my little network I've found myself in now. And so I was very involved there. And that group eventually faded out, funnily enough, because people stopped interacting, and they were like, cool, do you want to be in the group anymore? We're going to have to kick you out because you're wasting space, kind of thing. So a few people left. Some because they didn't like the system, and then their interests changed, or they weren't in design anymore, so it wasn't important to them. And or good for them. If you move on to something else, you embrace it, you do it. Life, and you change as you go through life. So they did that until it was just a few of us, until eventually it died down. And Julia and I, we still commented on each other's work and helped keep each other accountable and stuff from there. And then she developed another group called the Creative Boss Club, which she now heads up. She's got her own studio in Finland called True Studio. TRW, so it's TRUU Studio. I was going to say W, but that's a different letter. True Studio. So that's her agency, and she's now got this group, and now I'm part of that group, and again I'm tapped into that.
Yeah.
And then someone who's in that group now, he heads his own other group on Discord. So he was like, hey, do you want to join my channel, like my community? So I tapped in there, and there's a whole bunch of other people. So it's almost like it's not so much the movement or the art style, it's people are the community. Yeah. And I think Instagram is a great place to find a community, but communities don't lie there. Yeah. If it's used well. Yeah. But they don't lie there. They lie with people, and you have to be with the people on. So if you come across a group, I mean, like for example, the Perspective Collective, Scotty Russell. So he has a Facebook group. Like there's loads of people on there. They're always talking about this and always talking about that. And so these groups are out there. You just got to find them and go where they are. Like, and if you can find a group locally, freaking hey, that's awesome. Yeah. But in South Africa, there aren't a lot of those. They almost have to find them internationally.
And how important would you say a community was to your creative pursuit?
Hugely. Like you can only go so far on your own. I mean, what's the phrase? Like, if you're on your own, I'm gonna paraphrase this, but like, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together, kind of thing. So, because different people have different interests and aspects, and at different stages in their career, they have different perspectives and different experience and different insights that they can offer. So like me starting my creative business side of things, I had people I had access to that were already doing it. So why must I go through the pain of figuring it out on my own while I am still doing that, but like with no guidance? Just be like, hey, I'm thinking of doing this. What do you think? Cool. But I also did that and it didn't work like this. Maybe try this. Like, here's a contract template. Use it. Let me know what you think. I'm like, oh, awesome. I didn't know all that was included. Thanks. So tap into your network. Use the people. Yeah. No. If you can find community, seriously, like if you had to know everything, you would explode. Yeah. So tap into people. You don't have to know everything. Just know a few people who know the right things, and you're golden.
And it also speaks to collaborations. Like, how has that worked out for you? Collaborations and working with people.
Well, the funny thing about collaborations is that's when I started, that was quite big on Instagram. Like, hey, I have this artistic style, you have this one, let's collab. And so like then we both share that one artwork with each of our audiences, and now we share our reach, now people can find us, that kind of thing. So that was collaboration, in that aspect was quite important. And I did that a few times. You get featured here and you get featured there, and then your following explodes for a bit, and you get check it out, and you go from there. Your network and your audience grows. It's as a tool that can be very important, be very useful. So collaboration in that respect was quite important. But what I've found now in collaboration isn't so much in visual collaboration, but knowledge collaboration. True. So now like I said earlier, if you had to know everything, one, you'd explode, and two, the amount of time to be able to do that, you would be doing nothing but trying to learn something.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just need to do, and that leaves a gap for something else that you don't know. And so just know if you can, know a few people, or know someone who knows someone else.
Yeah.
So these key people are quite important. That you can then collaborate on insight and knowledge, and you can go, hey, I want to get into the gallery business. I've got a friend that knows someone who's already in there. Let me talk to them, and they can give me insight and experience that I can tap into.
It's a networking.
It is a big networking thing. And I mean, another collaboration thing was that a friend of mine, he was developing his website, but he needed help with copywriting, but he didn't really have a big grasp on it, and it was a bit daunting at the time. But he knew a copywriter who needed a graphic designer, so they were like, "Hey, look, let's help each other out here. I'll do your website or the visual side of your site. You do the copy of mine." And they did that, and now they both have great sites. So, like, that's another aspect of collaboration. You don't even have to be doing the same thing. Like, I hate web design. I really don't like it. I mean, like, doing it. The whole coding thing and like this, I was like, oh no, this is terrible. But I embraced it. I said, right, I don't like this, which means because I don't have a passion for it, I'm not going to put in the work and time to figure it out. I'm going to rely on someone else who knows what they're doing, and tap into them. And so then I found Squarespace and Wix and all that. So I'm like, well, why? I don't have to do it. I'm going to collaborate with a company who can help me with what I don't know how to do, so that I can then focus on what I do know how to do. So I think collaboration is a big word. I mean, like, it's not just like, we'll both work on this artwork and that'll be it. Like, it's multifaceted. There's more that you can do with it. But being willing to collaborate, I think, is important. To be willing to open your door, one, to accept that you're not good at something, so that you can then use someone who is good. And like, and then you build a relationship. One, you've got an awesome product at the end of the day. Two, you've now built a relationship, a rapport. So now you can go tap into them, and now when they have someone that needs what you do, they can refer you, and you have someone that needs what they do, you can refer, and you work together, and it just goes from there. So I think, again, it comes down to people and just being willing to accept that you need a little bit more than what you can do. So just find someone who can do it and collaborate. Like, seriously, do it. Try not to be too scared. Try.
And then let's talk about self-discipline and consistency, because I think that's something that you you had to learn to become who you are right now, and to also become the brand that you are, and to build such a name and a reputation. So how did you tap into that? How did you tap into that level of self-discipline? Because it is imperative for you to get to whichever level you aspire to get to, and for you to complete anything that you start.
So self-discipline and that kind of consistency it can be hard to start, because if you're not good at it initially, it can feel like just the word self-discipline and the word consistency can give you shivers, like, oh, there's a lot of work involved in that. And it's like, it's actually not. But for me, it helped to be more introverted than extroverted. So there's a spectrum of introvert and extrovert, and I fell more on the introverted side. So I didn't mind being on my own. I didn't mind focusing on myself. I didn't mind working a little bit harder with my studies, because that's what I did. Was I focused a bit more on my studies. I really threw myself into it, and I did well in my first year, and then I applied myself even more in my second year. Funny enough, in my first year, I just did it, and I was like, I just made it. I just made a distinction. So I was like, well, that's pretty cool. I wonder if I can do that for all 3 years. Like, oh, wouldn't that be a challenge? And so in my second year, I actually really applied myself. I nailed that. And then now I was like, oh, well, should I have done it the first 2 years? I can't not do it for the third one. So there was a personal accountability there, like a personal challenge that I made for myself. I think to be consistent and to have self-discipline, if you don't have something pulling you, it's not going to happen, because there are far more distractions than there are not distractions. And so if you don't have something strong enough to outweigh those distractions, something to give you that motivation, to be self-disciplined, to actually be like, well, I could be doing something else right now. I could be watching that movie, but no, I've got this thing I need to do. And if I don't do this thing, I'm not going to have this thing that I want in the future. So, I think it's important to have that kind of big goal, the big challenge to pull you through, to be disciplined. Consistency comes from discipline. It's not that you can you can't be consistent without having some discipline, because it's very hard to.
What was the thing that was pulling you? Give us an example of the thing that was pulling you in this sense.
So the thing that pulled me was I found out in my first year that you could graduate cum laude if you had a distinction for all 3 years. And I was like, oh, cum laude, you hear that in movies. Like, is that a real thing?
What is that?
Yeah, I was like, what is that? And I looked into it, and it was essentially just you get a distinction for all 3 years. And I was like, okay, cool. So what is a distinction? So now I'm like, that sounds cool. How do I get that? Okay, I've got to have a certain percentage every year. And I'm like, okay, how do I do that? I have to have a certain percentage for each of my subjects. You know, you break it down like that. And I was like, that's actually achievable. Like, it's not that hard. Like, I did it in my first year. Granted, I just made it without trying too much. But first year is first year. The standards step up a bit after that. So I was like, well, if I apply myself, let me see if I can. And so that was kind of what did it. And I was like, well, I remember I had a lecturer that he was a design thinking lecturer. So it wasn't necessarily the physical, he has a grid, he has a poster. It was like, well, it's the concept of thinking about design. There's more involved here. He said that, look, because a lot of our subjects were like, okay, this project is worth 5% of your year mark, and this one's worth 10%. You can look at that and go, oh, that doesn't mean much. Like, that's tiny.
Yeah.
And that's what most people would think of when they looked at that. But he was like, look, guys, I have to stress something to you. 5% of, 5% of 100% is nothing. But 100% of 5% is everything. That will carry you. And each subject, it adds up. Each brief, it adds up. That 5%, if you get 20% or you get 60% on your 5%, that sets a tone for that you follow through with. I was like, okay, cool. Well, let me apply myself as much as I can for every single subject, every single brief that I can. Yeah, you fall off the wagon here and there and whatever. But like, that's why there's a bigger picture and all the things, the weightings, they match up in the end, you know. So I was like, cool, I'm going to do the best I can and focus on really applying myself every single time. And then I did it. In the second year, I did well. I was like, shit, okay. Now the thing that was driving me was that I really wanted this thing. I'm 2/3 of the way. I can't back out now. I can't do it now. And I got really involved in that year. And I was like, this is cool. This is my place. I'm gonna really make something here. And it was funny because in high school, I was actually talking about it with my my honors class the other day, that in high school I did average, and it wasn't a big deal for me because the points that I needed to get into photography, I had already done them. I didn't really think so. I finished matric averagely, not at the bottom, not at the top. It was like, average. But then now in varsity, I'm excelling. So what's the connection? I found what I loved. And I was like, well, I must be in something right now. That something here is happening. I need to hold on to this. I need to grab it. I need to make the most of it because this is amazing. And the feeling, look, the validation you get from that is I'm not gonna lie, it's a great feeling. So I'm like, cool. I'm gonna really nail this thing because now that's my goal. That's my goal now. And in my third year, it was really hard because now, obviously, with that type guy, because that type guy officially started at the end of second year, in 2017. I'm now doing client work and my studies, which was full time. And then with my studies, I'm still a financial aid student, so I'm still helping out here and there. I'm there at the open days, talking to parents, talking to students. I'm doing extra work here. I'm trying to help out here. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. I'm also trying to see family and trying to have a social life and all that. So it was tough, like really hard to do it. But then I applied myself because I had a big goal, and I was driven to do that. And also I set myself up to do that because I had friends that would, and this is a cliche, but it's true. You go out and you go jolling, And then you fail your test the next day because you didn't apply yourself to, you didn't manage your time. Yes, you can go out and you can draw and you can do whatever, but make sure you need to get done what you need to get done. The number of dropouts that we had just because people didn't apply themselves, you're like, what a waste of money.
Yeah.
What a waste of money and time. Like, you've been given this amazing opportunity to get into this place and you've squandered it. Like, look, have a good time. Be smart about this. This is your education. So and obviously that's a controversial statement, so fight me. But I was of the opposite thing. I was like, no, look, I'll go out and I'll have a good time or whatever. But my focus is my studies. My focus is my education. So I did that. When some people went out, I was like, no, I've got to finish this project, guys. And during that time, I took on a lot of leadership roles as well in my groups, in my class. I was part of the Student Representative Council. I was president of the Student Representative Council. So that as well has its own responsibilities and tasks and things like that now fall outside of the studies. So now I've got to really manage my time. So all of that just taught me to better manage my time because I've got this goal. I've got to achieve it. How do I achieve it? Break it down. Cool. And it actually wasn't that complicated if you break it down. Which I think a lot of people don't do is they look at this giant thing and they go, how do I do that? I don't know. Okay, I'm out. That's it. They drop out at that, or they bail out at that point. Whereas if you just spend a little time going, okay, I've got to do this to do this. Okay, what do I need to do that? I've got to do this. Okay, how do I break that down even more? Oh, okay, I can do that tomorrow. Cool. And you start with the small thing, and you build that up, and that is where the discipline comes in. So that is where the consistency comes in.
Would you say that you took that thinking and you've applied it, to where you are right now? So within your workspace, within your business, and within your freelancing, would you say that what you learned in those 3 years of you being in university or in college, that thinking? And I can also relate because I was a bursary baby in my last year. But then from first and second year, I took every job I could get just to make sure that I still have this drive and this ambition. But that also, I don't know, because I think when you are faced with many obstacles, you also get this competitive edge, because you're like, okay, I'm involved in all of these things, but I still want to excel, and I still want to be top of my class. Like, so that was always my thing. And also with the cum laude mindset, because we built a cum laude mindset with Sabelo, similar to the Mamba mindset that Kobe had.
Yeah,
that's a big one. So people don't see it in that way, that if within your life there was a space or time when you excelled in something, you can actually take those learnings and you can take that behavior and you can take those characteristics and apply them in any other space. You can take that thinking, apply it in your business, apply it in your workspace, and you will excel. Obviously, you'll have to change and tweak and adapt it, and it has to fit in whatever it is you're working on right there and then. So would you say that you sort of took, or you are using your cum laude mindset where you are right now?
100%. I mean, that was what, for the lack of a less egotistic thing, that was what set me apart from the rest.
Yeah.
Was that I had that mindset, was that I had that goal. And a friend of mine next to me had the exact same goal, and we both pulled through.
Yeah.
We helped each other out. Like in the beginning, he also got it. We're like, well, let's do this together, buddy. Let's have each other's back here.
True.
And so in first year, same thing. We both did well. Cool. Let's do this. Second year, hey, bro, come. We got to do this. We got to do this together. Granted, like if I didn't have that motivation, the guy with me, I want him to get it. He wants me to get it. We both want each other and ourselves to get it. I don't know if I would have succeeded as well as I did, and then the third year, same thing, but bro, we're nearly there, So the cum laude mindset, that like goal, like it just became a thing, like we've got to do it, like, oh no, we've got to be those students.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, the cum laude students. It's like, yeah, but there's a reason for it. Like, the education is important. At the end of the day, if everyone in the room's got a degree, or a diploma or whatever, your employer is going to want the one that's at the top. So just strive to be there. And even if you don't get it, it's fine. What you learn along the way is what's important.
Yeah.
I apply that all the time. I mean, like my mom told me when I first started my degree, my course, she told me that when she was she was at Tech here in Durban as well, where she met my dad. She was in Tech, and while she was studying, she applied for everything that she could. So she would apply to help out of the theatre and be involved here and be involved there. And she said that one, built a relationship with the company, with the institution. You became a trustworthy person because you were reliable.
Yeah.
You were reliable above everything else. Even if you give 30%, be reliable that you were there. You never give the 30% because that's not your mindset, but you're there. That's what counts. And she said, look, just be there, or apply for everything, be involved as much as you can. And I did that, and my word, it made me learn so much more about myself at the beginning. It does, it builds confidence, and now you become a reliable person. And so that thing of like, fake it till you make it, like I learned, I came across, someone said, actually in my first year, she said, fake it till you become it, because now you're doing it so much that you're doing the thing. You're not faking it, you're doing it. You've become the thing. So I try my best to be involved with everything, to be reliable, to be an excelling person, student, until I was that person. And now I am that person. I apply that to everything. It's like that thing where, okay, I've done it before, let me do it again. I've done it. I can't say, I can't do that. I've done it. Same resilience. I just apply the same skills, the same mindset. So in my work with Rip Curl, I like, same thing. I apply like, cool, I'm going to work my ass off here. I'm going to build relationships. I'm going to use this as an opportunity to learn, to provide value for them. And to learn the skills, people skills, visual skills, financial skills myself. And I'm going to use it. And I'm cool. That's exactly what I'm doing. I have a good relationship with the guys. I could not work for a better company, I feel, right now. Like my manager, my crew, the guys I work with, I look forward to going to work every day because I made that my mindset. That I enjoyed going to campus every day when I was studying because I made that my mindset. I enjoy going to work every day. I made that my mindset. You can talk to yourself about, oh no, I hate what I do. Then stop doing it. Find something you really enjoy doing, because that bleeds through into your work. Having the passion for it bleeds through. You don't think so until down the line you realize how far you come. It's like, why? It's because you applied yourself. You enjoyed what you were doing, which meant you were more likely to go a bit more, a bit further than you would have already, which just skyrockets from there. And then with Thattypeguy, same thing. Like, I enjoy the opportunity and I embrace the opportunity to learn a new style, to work with a new client, to build my contract, to understand that kind of stuff, to do better with pricing and invoicing and relationships and portfolios and case studies. And like, if I didn't have that, I wouldn't know as much as I do now. I embrace it. I'm like, cool, this is uncomfortable at first, but everything...
when you start.
Everything when you start is uncomfortable. You've got to apply yourself. And so I did that. I took the cum laude mindset of, here's a goal. How do I get there? I'm going to put in the work. Cool. I want to be consistent in this. I have to be disciplined in that. I have to go, right, I need to get this done. I don't know how, but I'm going to get it done. And I find a way to get it done every time because I try to actually apply myself. And so, exactly what you said. It drives everything else. And it's like, it's funny because you mentioned the cum laude mindset, like it's this big thing, and it actually is. It's like, and there's a point where it's not even, it's not even about the cum laude, but it's about what the cum laude represented. What it represented to you.
And what's required to get there.
Exactly. Some people think it's so pretentious. Oh, whatever. But like, no, it's not about the thing. It's about what you learn on the way to get the thing. Now you've built the skills. You've built the portfolio. You've built the network. Now what are you going to do? Well, I don't know. Let's figure it out. And you try again. You find another thing that is your cum laude. That is your thing. I mean, like now I'm doing, I've started my post grad. And I'm like, oh, I love it again. Like, okay, cool. Like, I enjoyed learning. I enjoyed challenging myself and upskilling myself. Like, you are responsible for you.
Yourself. True.
You are responsible.
You have to want it for yourself.
Exactly. If you have something, if you want something and you don't have it, cool. What are you going to do to get it? Don't complain and sit there. Oh, I don't have this thing. Everyone's so, no, shut up. Do something about it. So if you, I don't know how to write. Cool. Let me look up how to write. YouTube is there. Trust me. There are people that will teach you for free if you look for it. You have to want it to actually get it. And so apply that cum laude mindset in inverted commas,
or even award-winning mindset, because for us it might be cum laude if you are a cum laude graduate, but for other people it's winning awards, and it's like you apply that winning mindset.
Yes, it's a winning mindset. It's not necessarily about the thing, it's the mindset, how you get there.
And the business side of it, do you want to talk about that? Like, what's the process of merging the creative side and the business side of it. Because at the end of the day, you can be a creative, but then what's the process of merging? Because you gotta sell your skills to the marketplace. What's that process?
So it's actually quite interesting, and this is a big topic, and I say in the community, because when you start looking for that kind of information, how do I merge this? You see how many other people are looking for the same information. So it's a big thing. It gets frustrating. Like, I'm a creative person. That's not business. I don't like business because it's not creative. It's like, well, you kind of have to be a bit of both, especially if you want to be a freelancer or an entrepreneur in the broad sense of the word. You have to be able to do everything. You have to be the art director, the designer, the accountant, the sales pitcher. You have to be everything. And so it can be really daunting, but I think what helped me was that I started small. I didn't overburden myself too much. I didn't I'm gonna go nail a client. I'm gonna nail a client like Coca-Cola. I'm just gonna do it. I'm gonna pitch it to them, and then we're gonna make a good time. We're gonna have a good time. We're gonna make something amazing. We're gonna make millions. That's it. I'm set for life. It doesn't work like that. You work for little mom and pop jobs here and there, a little shack here and a little business here, and this guy needs a logo for his brand, and this guy needs
Would you say that
stuff.
free work helped a lot?
It's a tough one because a lot of people don't like the free work thing because it can be very easily taken advantage of. It's like, yes, it has its place if you want it, not because they want it. I think that's the important distinction, is that if you are happy to do the free work, then there has to be a good reason for you wanting to do it, not for exposure and all that crap.
That one. When people say, "Oh no, it's going to give you exposure," it's always an excuse for someone to get something for free.
Yeah, you almost have to ask them, okay, how's it going to give me exposure? Can you lay that out for me in a graph? Can you break that down?
Gigi Lamaine actually hit me up for free work saying that.
Really?
No way.
I actually have the message.
You should frame that shit. Print it out and frame it.
I said that with regards to free work, what I want to advise is that, with the people that I'm working with, on this project, is that, it's a collaborative project, but then obviously we can't financially compensate. But then, when it comes to free stuff or the help, is you gotta have a lot of value that you're adding to the process.
Yes, absolutely.
It's gotta be valuable. If you're gonna do free work, you gotta see the amount of value that you're getting.
Yeah, I think free is a tough word because people often associate that with no money.
Or no value.
It's not about the money. Like some people I will not do free work even for family. But that doesn't mean they have to pay me money. They can just help me with my taxes, or they can make my birthday cake, or so I'm still getting something. There's a transaction happening. There's value, but it's not for free. I think free is a bad word.
Maybe also just to say, sometimes you might tap into something and assist someone if it's going to build your confidence also.
Yes.
So if it's going to help you grow in some sort of way.
See, that's what I'm saying, is that with the whole thing about you have to want to do it for your own reasons. So that if someone comes to you and they say, look, we'd like you to do this for us, but we can't pay you. You then now, the ball's in your court to go, okay, am I willing to do this for free? Or am I going to say, no, actually you have to pay me, kind of thing. But then if you do it for free, you have to set your terms. Like a lot of people go, cool, I'll do free work, but I own the contract. So now you have the control over this thing. And I think a lot of that's where the professionalism comes in. Like, yeah, you're cool, you can do something for free. If one, it's building your skill in a new style, that's cool. You need the work, because for other clients to want you to do it for them, you have to prove you can do it in the first place. So if a free client is going to give you that opportunity to prove yourself, cool. But not for the sake of exposure.
Yeah.
Like, that's not a currency. That's worth jack shit. And if you know what you're doing, and I say that trying not to, make anyone feel bad, but tough shit. If you know what you're doing, just essentially know your worth. Know what you're worth. But that doesn't have to be money. I think that's an important thing. Like, you can say, like, okay, cool, I'm happy to do this for you, but then I'd like, please, like, send me, like, I'll do this print for your shirt brand, cool. But then send me a couple shirts.
Yeah.
I'll do it for free, but then send me shirts free of charge, shipping included.
Yeah.
So you see that you can negotiate at that point, unless you really want the work to be able to improve your portfolio. That's another important thing. Like, if it's going to boost your portfolio, cool. Use it as a case study. Use it to prove yourself. Sometimes that's the only thing you can do, and that's okay, as long as you know why you're doing it, and there's an end goal.
And it also taps into you knowing yourself, so knowing where you are, where or which level you aspire to get to.
Exactly, yeah.
And then the in-betweens, because then you might have to, work with different people to get to the level you aspire to get to.
Exactly. Like if you see a thing like, right, I have to do work with this person to get access to this other person or this other brand, or to prove myself to that brand. Okay, cool. Now that free work is actually worth something.
Okay.
I'm going to do it now.
So what's the impact you want to make as that type of guy, as Zach Styles? So what's your impact?
Well, I have always found value in providing a service, being helpful to someone in some way. So whether I'm helping them create a brand so they can share their message, or I'm helping them with a magazine cover, or that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
I see it as I'm helping them achieve something they couldn't achieve without me. And that's not an ego thing. That's like, I have something to add to this. I have value to add. I am doing them a disservice. I'm doing myself a disservice if I don't provide the value that I have the ability to provide. And then now that becomes a waste.
And that doesn't include the cost. So even if the cost is low, you have to provide the best.
Exactly. Even if it's a small thing, you still provide the value. Like if you're doing something for a little shop down the road versus you're doing something for Nike, you're not going to shortchange them on the value. You might have a smaller contract or a simpler thing that you're doing for them, depending on how you want to structure it. But you don't shortchange them on the value. You provide it. You provide it.
That
and use
hurts
that as an
you
opportunity.
as the designer. That actually hurts you as the
It does,
artist.
because you've wasted an opportunity to learn something. Yeah. So I try to help people where I can, do what I can, provide what I can with what I know, and if what I'm doing helps me to get better at that, I'm all for it.
Okay. Thank you so much, Zach.
Pleasure.
Thank you so much. It's been amazing. It's always great when we catch up and we have a conversation.
Yeah, like I sit down now and I'm like, this is fun. Like I should do this.
Always amazing. It's always amazing.
With Zach, there's a lot we haven't covered, unpacked with you. So you're welcome anytime you want to get something.
Hey, Bree, you let me know and I'll see what I can do. Like, absolutely.
Alrighty. Thank you. So that wraps it up.
Cool. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.